Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, we give up. I know y'all thought I was too stubborn to ever change my mind on a 0.0, but I've done it. There's too much buzz around the NFL world about the Saints potentially taking a quarterback in the first round, and you know what? I don't have enough faith in this organization to think they don't have it in them to actually do it. We'll talk about whether it's the right thing. You can tell me what you think, although I know what most of you think already. We'll still have a lot of fun here on this Friday morning. Maybe I'm just pulling a Jedi mind trick anyway. We'll get to it early. We'll also talk about Kade Anderson's dominating 5-hit shutout of Oklahoma on the road in a series opener against the Sooners on Thursday. This won't be a repeat of the Texas series, will it? What about our Final Four picks? We have a new way of doing man versus machine, and it isn't just because we stunk up the joint. It'll be nothing but roses and sunshine on this morning. And is it just me or you and Gabe? No. Who else are we going to bring? No, it's just me, you, and Gabe this Friday morning. Hey, Popeye, let's roll them.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where you at, Dattitude family? TGIF. Thank God it's Final Four time. I guess that would be TGIFFT, but whatever. How about TIDE 358? Huh? I mean, this is Dattitude, episode number 358, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Friday, April the 4th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Derry, 34 and a half years in the New Orleans sports media scene. I thank you for being a part of this ever-growing Dattitude family. I spread myself too thin yesterday, which is almost impossible with my size. I don't know what it is. Nobody asked me to do anything for like 6 weeks, and then people asked me on the same day to do. Was running around doing TV shows yesterday. People actually noticed this time. I mean, it's not like I haven't been on TV before. Maybe I was just talking about something they wanted to talk about. I don't know. We talked about the Saints' potential over-unders. Maybe we'll get into it for a second this morning. We'll see. Our lead topic is obviously, as you see in our new box, we've got some new features here. We're trying to do change the way we do the lead of the show and our pregame chat on Dat. Coming up today, you see what's coming up today on the show. Will there really be a quarterback in round one? I don't know, man. I'm just giving into the talk. I don't know that I believe it, but I can't say 0.0 anymore. When you got Ian Rappaport going on about it on the NFL Network, and we're writing stories. You know what? It's kind of like before remember a couple years ago, for those of you who have been listening for a long time, and we were talking about over-unders, and I said I thought the Saints would be like 9-8. What was this, 2 years ago? Well, I guess 3 seasons ago. 9-8. That's what I said. 9-8. They're going to go 9-8. With the over-under at the time was 9.5. So I'm going to go under, right? No. I let my friends in the media talk me into going over. And I changed my opinion. I'm doing it again. Whenever I change to the sheep, whenever I go with the sheep, I'm wrong. Whenever I just go with my first instinct. But look, you can't ignore it. We're going to talk about that this morning. More Saints draft talk, whatever else you guys want to get into when it comes to the draft. We are going to spend some time. We have not talked at all about LSU baseball this season so far, or very little. We're going to talk about Kade Anderson, 5-hit shutout. Gabe texted me last night. I forgot that they were playing on Thursday. I can't get used to this Thursday, Friday, Saturday thing. I'm so used to it used to be only on special occasions they would play Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, like if it was Easter weekend or if something else were going on or whatever. You'd have like 2, maybe 3 a year. Now it's like almost every weekend. I have to get used to that. Men's Final Four. We'll make our predictions. We got a new way of doing man versus machine. We learn. See, the machine AI learns. We learn too. We can do whatever the hell we want. We've got a new way of doing that. It still involves Gabe making his pick and AI making their pick, but it's just we tweaked it. We don't have to rely so much on AI, which was doing a really crappy job, by the way. You're going to be a part of the show because it is Mono E Friday. It's not because I couldn't get a guest. I didn't even try. I didn't even want one. Like, I went on these shows yesterday. I'm like, you know what? I'm done talking with other people. Let's talk. I want to talk with my people on this Friday. So we'll have back-to-back Mono E whatevers because we got Mono E Friday. Of course, we'll have Mono E Monday. It means if you're new to the show, I know it's supposed to be Mono Don't correct me. It's just me. It's just you. It's just Gabe. That's the show today. You can be a part of it all by typing in your comment, whether you watch it on YouTube or Facebook. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the Dattitude YouTube page. If you're watching on the Dattitude YouTube page, please click the like button. Again, I'm not smart enough to know why it helps. I just know that they tell me that it does. And I've been trying to find they for 34 and a half years, and I still can't find them or her or they or whatever. You can get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. and email me, jderry@theadvocate.com. All right. Let's get to some of the comments that we've got. Christian couldn't wait. Shedeur Sanders has only played for his daddy. Young coach Kellen Moore having to deal with prime time complaining would be a disaster. I'm not even sure that they're going to do it. We're going to get into that again. We didn't have my Saints slot up yet. We haven't even got into the top stories of this morning. Mark Gapsky, good morning. Who dat? I'm not big on Shedeur Sanders. Thinks he's going to be a bust. Okay. You know what I think? I've already told you what I think, but I'll tell you again, especially for those who haven't heard me before. Dylan Smith, good morning, Dattitude family. Got wife and daughter listening with me. Man, y'all road tripping and you listening to the Dattitude podcast. Tell me that they have their headphones on. Mrs. Smith and Little Smiths, y'all got your headphones on, right? You ain't listening to me. Good thing you ain't looking at me. I'm hideous. It's still messed up. It's better, though. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back and look at me Wednesday. My eye was almost swollen shut. It's much better today. I'm hideous. Phil Mariandi, good morning from Texas. Good morning. 9 is here. Drew Brees is watching the show. Saying hello to Dylan Smith. Okay. William, we know Loomis Caps never trades back, but this could be the draft in which the Saints trade back and acquire more picks. Maybe. Maybe this thing on my eye will go away by the end of the show. Mark Gapsy, his Padres are playing the Cubs this week, and that's right. We got to get off early today so I can make sure that I watch opening day at Wrigley today. Flava Dave says if they draft Shedeur, they're going to have to deal with a helicopter parent. Nightmare. So, why would that be a nightmare? I don't know what I think about Shedeur, but I mean, if Dion is flying in his helicopter, is that a problem? I don't know. Lance Dobart, who dat? Lots of Shedeur hate, he says, but he agrees. Dylan says the wifey says she's totally listening. You got a trooper. My wife doesn't even listen. My kids say that I make their ears bleed. Of course, that's mostly when I'm doing play-by-play. You know, it is what it is. James Choctaw, he's fired up about potentially getting Shedeur Sanders, I think. He says, is this the draft? The Saints actually draft talent. Isaiah Foskey, baby. Oh, we're gonna go over that. All right. We're gonna do what we've been doing. We started a new segment, Pregame Chat. Very quickly, I will go through the top stories that have landed nationally and here in New Orleans since we last spoke. Before we get to all that and before we get to our Saints talk, let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, they're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family. Let me start this over. Tongue twisters. I've read this read. I change it. I try to change it a little bit up every show. But my friends at Evangeline deserve better. So I'm starting over, by God. Let me tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. You got that? Of course, they're a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can help you figure out what that business is worth. If that's you or someone you know, It's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemelt, who still have a perfect Final Four bracket. Well, maybe not. Whatever. They're perfect in my eyes. They'll start by scheduling a complimentary evaluation from their offices either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette, and from there, you will be well informed to begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. What happens after that? We'll fill you in more later in the show, but in the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. JC and Deep Brar, what's going on from Denver? Beautiful Denver, Colorado. Welcome. Let's see. What did Grok say were the top news stories of the day? Because I don't always pay attention. I got to be honest. Last night, you know what? This is how sad it was. I forgot LSU was on. What did I watch last night? I found this new. Anyone who knows me at least a little bit knows I'm fascinated with the weather. Okay, I probably spend as much time, especially in time when there's a lot of weather stuff going on. I spend as much time watching weather as I do talking or watching sports. I went to Fox 8 yesterday. It was cooler to see Bruce Katz than it was to hang out with Garland Gillen. Just was. It is. Just saying. Anyway, so I did not know a lot of these things. NBA highlights. Stephen Curry and Ja Morant, Sean. What's the deal, by the way? I saw Ja Morant did something. I don't know. Oh, the NBA issued a warning to him, and Buddy Hield for a finger guns gesture. But apparently he did it anyway. Does anyone care? Good Lord. Is that where we are now? Steph Curry, following his recent 52-point game against the Memphis Grizzlies earlier this week, he boosted Golden State as they prepare to face the Lakers tonight. Woohoo! It says the number 2 story of the day was the Dodgers' hot start and torpedo bats. We're still talking about the torpedo bats. They're not going away, folks. Gabe says he's been suspended for gun-related stuff before. I know. But I guess if you've been, I mean, didn't he get in legal trouble, Gabe, about that? Didn't he get in trouble? No? Just for doing the stupid, all right, whatever, Grok. I don't care about the torpedo bats. We talked about that Monday. I'm not talking about that anymore. Final Four, we're going to talk about that in a little bit. Number 4, NHL playoff races are heating up. Big whoop. Nobody here cares about that. And the number 5 story, it says of the day, so we didn't miss anything yesterday, apparently, is soccer. And the U.S. is eyeing the 2031 Women's Cup. That's 6 years from now. I know Gabe might care, but I don't care about soccer 6 years from now. I don't even care about soccer tomorrow, much less 6 years from now. Gabe, if you want to talk about U.S. Women's Cup in 2031 when you come on, you're more than welcome. Fridays with Gabe is coming up. Whatever. Let's move on. That's enough. It's enough pregame chat. What else we got in here? Saint for Life is here. And Gabe's going to be in Denver in a couple weeks. You can go hang out with JC. Mark Gapsky is hoping the Saints draft Jack Besh. Okay, well, we're not going to talk about potential 3rd-round picks or 4th-round picks or whatever Jack Besh will be. Not yet, anyway. Just a reminder, in case you didn't hear me say this earlier in the week, we are definitely doing. In fact, we're already starting preparations for our live draft show. It's going to be the 4th time we do it here on NOLA.com, but it'll be the 3rd in a row. So we'll call it the 3rd annual. That first time we did it was Jim Rapier and I did it back in 2015, whatever year the Saints drafted Andrus Peat. Maybe it was later than that. No, I think it was 2015. That's how old Andrus Peat is. So anyway, we're doing that live. The entire first round from before the first pick is made. I'm not talking about the Saints' first pick. Before pick number 1 in the NFL draft is being made until after pick number 32, we will be on the air live on this same YouTube channel. It may or may not be on the Facebook. I don't know. I know it's on the Dattitude YouTube channel and the Saints Insider YouTube channel for sure. Saints for Life wants to know who I'm teaming with. It'll be just like it's been the last couple of years. It'll be Zach Ewing and I, and I'm not sure Gabe might be a part of it too. We haven't figured it out. We don't know yet. We got to talk about it. We still got things to talk about. Yeah, I'm trying to pay attention. I know, I get it. Dylan says Ja with the stupid gun hand gesture. It is stupid, but soccer. All right. Let's talk about the potential of drafting a quarterback in the first round. And look, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go through and I'm going to basically, we're transparent in the show. If it does happen, I'll tell you I was wrong. I mean, I'll say it live. Besides that, you'll want my initial reaction if the Saints actually do this, because it won't, I'm not going to be pleased. Let's put it that way. I mean, nothing against Shedeur Sanders, nothing against Cam Ward if they would have to trade up to get him. I mean, even nothing against Jaxson Dart. It would be a major reach to draft Jaxson Dart at 9. If Shedeur Sanders is still there at 9, I guess I could at least understand that, because you're talking about a guy who's been mentioned as a potential top 3 or 4 pick in the draft. If he slipped to 9, you'd have to consider it, right? I mean, JC's from Boulder. Saints coaching staff is in Boulder today. He understands. Look, a lot was made about Kellen Moore not going to Shedeur Sanders' pro day. All these things, a lot of times, you don't know the games that all these people play. Belichick was famous for playing his games. No one maybe understood the whole draft game than Sean Payton. Now, you want to talk about when it comes to quarterback, and if you don't remember this, or if you haven't heard us talk about this before, the Saints wanted Patrick Mahomes. The Saints were going to draft Patrick Mahomes. Now, we know that at the time, the Saints weren't even thinking quarterback or talking about quarterback because they didn't want to piss Drew Brees off. Drew Brees would, blah, 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 blah. Don't get me started on all that. You got to keep the king happy. Don't get me started. That being said, they didn't care. They were drafting Patrick Mahomes, and Andy Reid said, "Not so fast, my friend." Andy Reid, he sniped the Saints, whatever you want to call it. By the way, Gabe says breaking news. Just talking about John Morant here about 3 minutes ago. Fined $75,000 for finger guns. That's like you being fined at the dollar store. You're going to have to pay $2 for your sweet tarts, buddy. Cares? $75,000. Breeze is the king. King of what? He's the best player that's ever played for the Saints. We're not doing that on this show. I'm not doing that today. Don't get me started. There is no such thing as a king. I figured I would start with this morning. The Saints have something on there that I never noticed before. Of all the quarterbacks, we always joke about how the Saints don't even know how to draft a quarterback in the first round. Okay? That's why when I said 0.0, factoring into the equation is the Saints haven't drafted a quarterback in the first round since, wait for it, Archie Manning. That was 54 years ago. To show you how long ago that was, I was 2. I was 2 years old in April or May of 1971, whenever the hell the draft was back then. 2. You see all this? See what y'all have done to me here? All this gray? A long time ago. But anyway, we'll have some fun. How many quarterbacks have the Saints drafted in their history? 57 years worth of drafts. Does anybody know, without cheating, you know how many quarterbacks the Saints have picked in the NFL draft? The answer is 24. Okay? 24. That's a lot. How many of them panned out to be legit quarterbacks? Oh, I don't know. Let's go through them real quickly. Well, we know the last one that they drafted. The great Spencer Rattler. Jury's still out for some people. Maybe not for me. The one before that, 2023, 127th selection of the 2023 NFL Draft, Jake Haener. I think we know how that worked out. For him, 4th round of the 2021 Draft, out of Notre Dame, Ian Book. How about the 7th round, 240th pick of the 2020 Draft? I don't even know who the hell I don't even remember who this is. I don't remember. Does anybody remember Tommy Stevens? It's from 2020. It's not. Gabe shaking his head. Yeah. Who the hell is Tommy Stevens? Gabe guessed 19, by the way. Who the hell is Tommy? I don't know why I don't remember that. Tommy Stevens. Okay. Anyway. And in the picture that I'm looking at, he's wearing 85, so they must have switched him to tight end after they drafted him. Before that, the 3rd round. Oh, how could you forget this one? 2015. It had been 5 years. It took 5 years between 2015 and 20. But 2015, you're all going to remember this one. How about Garrett Grayson? Remember Garrett Grayson? Saint for Life says, yeah, he played at Mississippi State, and he was a quarterback converted to tight end. David Hash remembers him too. I don't remember him. Y'all better than me. Gabe Henderson says Penn State and Mississippi State. And that was before the transfer portal. Anyway, how could we forget Garrett Grayson in the 3rd round? That worked out well. So that's 5 out of 24. Who's before that? Before that, you got to go back another 5 years to 2010. Oh, you can't forget this guy. Oregon State, baby. Another 7th round pick. Sean Canfield. Sean Canfield. Everybody remembers Sean Canfield. Before that, 2005 draft, which was before Sean Payton. I actually do remember this guy, but I don't remember him being with the Saints. Out of Florida State. How about Adrian McPherson? 7th round pick. Saint for Life says Grayson was Colorado State. He sucked. Yep. UBN has a Sean Canfield jersey. Yeah. Okay. And I got a UBN jersey. All right. Before 2005, where do we got to go? Let's see. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, baby. 2002. I remember this one. Actually lasted for a little bit. 6th round of the 2002 draft. J.T. O'Sullivan. Woo! 9 quarterbacks ago. 6th round of the 168. 6th round of the 2000 draft. This one. See, I didn't remember the Saints drafting this guy, but this guy was actually a very good NFL quarterback. How did this happen? 6th round of the 2000. Before I say the name, does anybody know without cheating? 6th round of the 2000 draft, the 168th pick of the draft. Mark Bulger. Mark Bulger was a legit NFL quarterback for the Rams for how long? Quite a bit. I'm not going to go look up the stats. That's okay. I didn't remember he was picked by the Saints. How about this one? Here's one of my favorites. This can be one of your favorites too. 4th round of the 1997 draft. All I remember is the helmet backwards, baby. Danny Werfel. Heisman Trophy winner. 99th pick of the 1997 draft. Woo! For that. Y'all definitely know this name. He lives in Baton Rouge right now. 4th round of the 1994 draft. 116th selection of the draft. His name is Doug Nussmeier. Just saying. He started some games for the Saints. Not many, but he started a few. All right, here's one I don't remember. Going back 12 quarterbacks ago. So we're right in the middle now. The Saints have taken 24 quarterbacks in the draft. This one is number 13. So we're right in the middle, 13 and 12. The 8th round, let's see, there's not even an 8th round anymore. Shows you how long ago. The 8th round of the 1990 draft out of Nebraska. If you tell me you remember this guy, you're a liar. His name, Jerry Godowski. You're a liar if you tell me. You remember that. Saint for Life says, Danny Werfel was a damn good college player, just not a good NFL player. Yeah. Cecil Evans says, Peyton tried to be cute, traded up for Tommy Stevens, and thought he had the next Taysom Hill. Hey, we didn't realize what he was looking for at the time. Big Sean, we're going to get to it in a minute. He wants us to draft a quarterback, preferably Dart. Shedeur will be too steep. We're going to get to it in a minute. I got to finish. This is a great list, by the way. William says the Saints will pick a quarterback in this draft. It might be later round, but all the attention more I would say if we get into a quarterback, signs are there. I'm also going to ask the question, so get your answers ready. Don't give it to me now. What do the Saints do? Well, we know that Hayner's probably gone. What do the Saints do with the Rat if they pick a quarterback? They just put a quarterback later in the draft and put him on the practice squad? Maybe. All right, we're halfway through the list of former Saints drafted. I should have gone from front to back. This guy, okay. Here's a guy who, let's see how many games this guy started before I tell you the name. This guy started, okay? He started, I'm certain he started multiple games at quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Let's see, how many games did No, I'm wrong. He only started one game. I just remember him being on the team. I thought he was better than he was. It just goes to show how many quarterbacks the Saints did not have back then. Out of Maine, the 6th round of the 1990 draft, Mike Buck. I could have swore Mike Buck started more than one game. I would have lost that one. All right. Moving on. How about the 1988 draft, the 10th round out of San Diego State? Another one, if you tell me you remember him, you're a liar. Todd Santos. Moving on. Todd Santos. Who the hell is Todd Santos? Oh, yeah, baby. All right, this one I got to look up. Here's one who definitely played quite a bit for the Saints. What round was he drafted in? The first round. So it's the supplemental draft. Okay, this was not. So technically, it's not a first round pick because it was the first selection of the supplemental draft in 1981. You know this one. 1981. I'll give you a second before I tell you who it is. He started with the Saints, and he played his entire career in New Orleans from 81 to 88, and he started 31 games. Got to know who it is. If you're at least, I don't know, 46, 48 or older. Dave Wilson. Dave Wilson passed for just shy of 7,000 yards in a 7-year career. He started 31 games. 31 games, that's 2 seasons worth. And he threw for just shy of 7,000 yards. 36 touchdowns and 55 interceptions. Whew. Who said the Saints don't have impact quarterbacks that they drafted? Moving on. That was the 1981 supplemental draft. How about the 1978 draft? The 6th round out of Lehigh. All right, now you're getting to where even old people like me don't remember. I don't remember this guy. I don't know if he ever played. Never heard of him. Mike Riker. Another guy I never heard of. 11th round of the 76th draft. Greg Kokel out of Kent State. Now we're just getting goofy. All right, well, I remember this guy vaguely because he did play some games too. In fact, he had some distinction that we brought up not too long. Here it is. Let's see. I don't remember exactly what the distinction is of this guy. 15th round of the 1974 draft. To show you how terrible the Saints were, he actually played in 8 games, started 3 of them. Larry Sippa. Yeah, we're just getting silly now. We need to finish this. Most people never heard of these guys. I never heard of. Here's a Tulane guy. Saints drafted a Tulane quarterback in the 15th round of the 1972 draft. And I hope I don't butcher this guy's name. Rusty Lachaussee. Lachaussee. 15th round of the 72 draft. Oh, you got to remember this one if you're old like me. 14th round. Here's another guy who absolutely started I say many. I got to look it up first. It's got to be at least 10. Yeah, he started 14 games in his Saints career, which lasted from 1973 to 1981. Played for Tennessee. He was drafted in the 14th round. Bobby Scott. Robert Benson Scott. Born in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Played for Tennessee. Was Archie Manning's backup. And in fact, if you remember, Archie got hurt in 76. Bobby Scott started 8 games that year. How about this? You want to talk about how different football is? He played in 41 games. He started 14 games. He threw for 2,781 yards in 41 games. He threw 15 touchdown passes and 28 interceptions. You want to talk about a game that's completely different today. Getting back there, we only got a few more. How about this one? You know this one. I'm not going to. First round of the 1971 draft, we know the answer to that one. It's the only player, the only quarterback the Saints have ever drafted in the first round, ever, except for, we talked about Dave Wilson, who was the first round of the supplemental draft. They don't even have that anymore, I don't think. Or they do, but they don't make a big deal about it. Gabe, do they still have the supplemental draft? I don't think they have that anymore. It wasn't that long ago that they got rid of it. I don't think they have. They don't even think they do it. Jay says no. Anyway, Archie Manning was the second selection of the 1971 draft. I believe that Jim Plunkett was the first pick. Or was Jim 1971 NFL draft? Was it Jim Plunkett? As we look at this on it was Jim Plunkett. And in fact, quarterbacks went 1, 2, and 3. Plunkett went to the Patriots, Archie to the Saints, and the Houston Oilers selected Dan Pastorini. Those 3 quarterbacks, you want to talk about 3 good quarterbacks in the NFL, using quick Shaw math, they threw for, over 65,000 yards combined. That's significant. Actually, over 65,000 yards combined. So it's a pretty good trio, especially in that day. And then we'll wrap it up here. The first 3 quarterbacks to be chosen in an NFL draft for the Saints back in the 5th round of 1970. Saints selected Steve Ramsey of North Texas. In 1969, the 16th round, Ed Hargett, who actually played for the Saints a little bit. I think he started a game or 2 for Texas A&M. The first quarterback the Saints ever selected in an NFL draft. Never heard of him. 5th round, Ronnie Lee South. Did Ronnie Lee South ever play? He played in 4 games, didn't start any. He was 14 of 38 for 129 yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. All the games he played in were in that year of 1968, which was a wonderful year, by the way. That's right. It was the year I was born. Just goes to show. I mean, we're having fun with this, but the point is the Saints don't draft quarterbacks. They never have. It doesn't matter if it's not Mickey Loomis. It's nobody. 24 in the 57-year history of this team. Well, 58 now. They're about to have their 58th draft. They don't draft quarterbacks. They've only drafted 1 in the first round. Gabe says the last supplemental pick was in 2019. It hasn't, quote unquote, officially died. It just isn't a thing. Okay. So, but back when Dave Wilson was picked, by the way, I get off on a tangent again. It was a deal. It was a big thing. But it wasn't the first round of the draft. So are they going to pick a quarterback in the first round for the first time in 54 years? You can't say 0.0 anymore. And I'm going to liken Shedeur Sanders to, I think his playing style looks like a Lamar Jackson. I mean, you could say whatever you want about Lamar Jackson, and I've said that I don't necessarily think that Lamar Jackson can win a big game. He's got to prove it to me that he can win a big game. But if Shedeur Sanders is anything, if he's in the ballpark of Lamar Jackson, then I'm going to be wrong, and he's going to be a starting quarterback in this league for quite some time. And I mean anything. Saint for Life says, Watch out for someone like Missouri quarterback Brady Cook, very good athletic quarterback, upside late round pick. It's worth using a late round pick on. See what? And one thing about Brady Cook is, I'm going to get back to Shedeur in a minute. One thing about Brady Cook is, I think for a while, when you talk about the end of last year, he was projected he was going to be a higher pick. I think for quite a bit. They thought last year, before he decided to come back, and Missouri was okay. He got hurt anyway. I think that he was projected to be a little bit higher than what he is now. So maybe. But everybody's talking about quarterback. I just don't. Look, as I said on both shows yesterday, and we talked about this on both shows, I just don't know that this team is going to draft a quarterback at all. Will they take a flyer on one later? Maybe, because I think if they take a flyer on one later, they could do what I was saying and put one on the practice squad. What are you going to do if you draft a quarterback early? Are you just completely ditching Spencer Rattler? Because you're not going to keep 3 quarterbacks on a roster, okay? You're just not. I mean, people don't do that these days. There's no reason to. So if you draft a quarterback early, you know Derek Carr's on the roster. Or are you just completely ditching Spencer Rattler? I don't know that this team is ready to do that. Okay? Doesn't matter what I think, what you think, or I mean, the rat lovers have been fewer and more far between, but they still exist. And I would doubt, no matter what I've said, I still think he's a decent enough backup. I don't think they're just going to give up on him and give in. So with that being said, if you draft a quarterback early, then you expect that player to be on your active roster, which means the rat's gone. You know, there are so many things about this draft that are intriguing to me, and I just don't know where the Saints' heads are and where they're trying. I think they're throwing the smoke screens out there. But one thing that my colleagues yesterday, Eric Asher and Garland Gillen, both said is, you know, it's weird that Kellen Moore isn't saying anything about Derek Carr. Yeah, we like him, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I get it. What do you want him to say? I don't know what you want him to say. But nobody's saying anything. Maybe that's for a reason. Maybe they're trying to, like, throw that smoke screen out there again. I don't know. Big Sean says, willing to bet that we only make 6 of the 9 selections we have. He thinks we'll trade up and trade away a time or two. Well, that is the Saints' MO, so I can't tell you I think you're wrong. But I think this is a draft where the Saints, if they're going to do something that's not of their ilk, something they haven't done before, I think this is the year that they trade to get more picks. Hence why I think that trading down is more of a possibility than trading up. David +1#. Why not draft another O lineman and help protect whoever the quarterback is? That can make a good quarterback better if he has the time. I haven't changed my opinion. There's no question that my opinion stands. I don't want the Saints to trade down. If they do, I'm fine with it. I don't want the Saints to pick Ashton Genty. If they do, I'm fine with it. But what this team needs more than anything, David and everyone else watching, and I've said it before, I'll say it again. There's no question that Derek Carr is the quarterback going into this year. No matter who the Saints draft. The Saints draft Shedeur Sanders or Jaxson Dart or whatever. Derek Carr is still the quarterback of this team. Now, they'll find ways to get whoever that player would be in the game. All that being said, what does this team need more than anything? If you say quarterback, you don't know what you're talking about. It's not even close. Quarterback's not even in the. If there are 8 positions on a football team, let's just be generic and say there are 8 positions on a football team. Quarterback's like 7th right now. Why would you take one in the first round? It doesn't make sense. I don't care. And look, none of these quarterbacks are as good as the top 4, 5, or 6 that were in last year's draft. Michael Penix, who was drafted 8th last year, was a shocking pick, yes. But Cam Ward's not as good as Michael Penix, in my opinion. You need the big men. You need to shore up this offensive line, you need to win in the trenches. Saint for Life says, I believe Carr and his agent aren't happy with the Saints, but are playing close to the vest until training camp. There's no way. I mean, we can throw out all these rumors and guess all we want. But, how many times do I need to say this? You know what cures unhappiness or malcontent? Winning. When Carr gets in here and starts working with this new group, it'll be 2 days in and he'll say, oh, man, I really like what we're doing. And you won't, nobody will be talking about whether he's happy or not. That's what's going to happen. He's going to come in and keep it positive, brother. Because that's what he does. That's what he does. St. John Butler says, I'd love to see them actually trade back. We have so many holes. Hey, look, I'm not going to complain if they trade back. I'm going to complain if they trade up. Unless it's like one spot and they don't have to give up much. But crazy. I mean, you can't. This is not a draft to trade up, in my opinion. What are the strongest? Two of the strongest areas in this draft are defensive linemen. I think the Saints can wait to the second round to get one. Or maybe even the third round. And running back. I think the Saints can wait to get one there too. Unless Genty falls to 9, which I don't think is going to happen, but it's possible. There are tons of running backs in this draft, which there usually aren't. Dylan Smith, he wants a few dogs in the trenches. Mark Gapsky wants to know what I think of Tyler Shaw, the Louisville quarterback. Look, I know a lot of people are a fan of his, but again, I don't want this team to use a pick last year when they picked the Rat. Again, I'm not getting into what I think about the Rat, blah, blah, blah. What I think he's going to be a fine backup. Okay. I actually advocate for the Saints not picking a quarterback, getting rid of Hayner or putting him on the practice squad or whatever, or signing some super cheap free agent, but keeping the Rat on as a backup. That's what I think. I'm fine with that. Don't waste a pick on a quarterback when there's so many things you need and you're probably going to draft a quarterback next year. Why would you waste a pick? I know you have multiple picks. You got 5 picks in the first 4 rounds. Great. That doesn't mean you have to use one on a quarterback. Why do you have to go get a project when there's no quarterback that's going to play for this year? And Carr's certainly going to be here this year. And very likely, I know y'all come up with all these scenarios, and we had Fletcher Mackel on Wednesday. And we talked about, Fletcher's ridiculous situations. I mean, some people thought it was fun. I thought it was kind of ridiculous, but whatever. Saints need to focus on what they need and not waste picks on someone that's not going to play here. And again, unless you think that Shedeur Sanders, if he falls to 9, Saints are going to have a decision to make. There will be plenty of talk. They'll probably take all their time. He's probably in their top 9. I talked about it the other day. I think the Saints probably have their card of the top 9. Whoever's at the top of that list when they pick, they're going to get one of the 9, obviously, at the bare minimum. There might be 3 guys on that list when they pick. What do you do? What do you do if you have like a Membu or a Campbell? Your offensive lineman. He's there. That's what you want. The Bears are praying you don't take him at 10. Because that's what the Bears want. That's what the Bears need. I promise you that's what they're going to do at 10. They're going to take, if Membo or Campbell are available at 10, that's who the Bears are taking. What do you do if Shedeur Sanders is there at 9? Big Sean, you got a good point. What if Moore is sold on a quarterback in this year's draft? If that's the case, he should grab him. Why? Because you're going to have him. This is why I think you don't do that. Okay. Again, look, what I think doesn't matter. I mean, if Kellen Moore is sold on someone, he's probably going to get him. But that being said, why would you draft a quarterback early? Let him sit on the bench. You're basically getting rid of Rattler, which would piss off a quarter of the fan base. and you're going to have whoever the quarterback is sit the bench, and he's going to sit the bench. You can talk, because if the Saints start the quarterback, there's going to be then the rumors start of who is this quarterback going to start? Is Derek Carr going to sit? They're not going to sit a $50 million quarterback on the bench. And not only that, Kellen Moore wants to win. What would have to happen for Derek Carr to sit on the bench? They'd have to draft a Shedeur Sanders or a Jaxson Dart, and then Derek Carr would have to pull a Kirk Cousins and be so bad, which isn't going to happen, by the way, would have to be so bad or get injured that they would put that quarterback in. Just don't think it's going to happen. Who Dat Daddy? Welcome. Glad you're here. It's the Who Dat family. William says Rattler wasn't Moore's pick. And look, y'all are going too much about Moore's picks and Moore's thoughts. Carr wasn't Moore's pick, but he's sticking with him. Okay? Rattler wasn't Moore's pick, and he was a late fifth-round selection, so Moore has no reason to stick with Rattler. Moore will want to choose his own quarterback. Yes, he will, but not this year. Again, you're missing the point. Okay? The Saints' future at quarterback. Why would you use a later round pick on a quarterback if that quarterback likely has no future here? Let's be realistic. That's what we do on this show. Realistically, the Saints are going to get their quarterback for the future next year. That's my reality anyway. Again, I'm not saying 0.0 anymore. I think it's more, if you're saying the Saints if you're telling me, if I was sure right now, if someone came down and said, I will give you the list of positions that the Saints make in this draft, and quarterback was on this list. So it's 100%. If it were a 100% certainty the Saints were going to draft a quarterback, I would tell you this. I think it's more likely that the Saints would draft a quarterback higher in the draft than lower, because I agree with Big Sean in the fact of if Kellen Moore is sold on a quarterback, it's going to be someone that we know, someone that he thinks can be an NFL starter. You're not going to use a later round pick, in my opinion, when you've already done that with Spencer Rattler. Even if it wasn't Kellen Moore, I get it. You don't need to go draft another backup quarterback. Don't waste a pick. This team has too many needs to go use picks later in a draft on a potential quarterback when you're probably going to go and do it next year anyway. Doesn't make sense. Dylan Smith says if he can do something with Dart, he should be able to do something with Rattler. I don't think Dart is much better than Rattler. I completely disagree. I'm not a Jaxson Dart fan, and I don't want the Saints to draft Jaxson Dart. But Jaxson Dart, to me, is head and shoulders better than Spencer Rattler, in my opinion. Again, I've never seen Jaxson Dart play in the NFL. I think he has more potential. I've seen Spencer Rattler play. We're not doing that this morning. I'm just not. I'm not doing it this morning. Y'all know what I think about Spencer Rattler. I'm not trying to piss anybody off this morning. What about other potential? Let's see. We talked about social media. We talked about Kellen Moore skipping Shedeur Sanders' pro day. No big deal. But it's out there, man. And as I'm looking at, I just typed in on X. I typed in search for Saints QB draft. People are trying to will it. The Derek Carr haters are trying to will it into existence. That's why I can't buy in. Okay. Just because of Ian Rappaport's, I think somebody like Ian Rappaport the dude follows 32 teams right now. I guess he's got his ear to the grindstone as much as anyone. Here we go. Troy Thibodeau. Squirrel alert! Squirrel! The squirrel's flying all over in this studio. Always remember, this guy thinks Carr is good. Define good. You don't listen. I love people that don't listen because they're squirrels, numbnuts, morons, whatever words you want to use. I'm going to be nice. I'm not going to call him a dumbass. Although we are about to start Gabe, you getting ready? Because I think next Friday we're starting a dumbass of the week segment. It's not going to be, we don't want to use listeners and viewers because I don't want to piss them off too bad. Define good. You're talking about someone who is in the top 20 all time of, what is he? He might be 21st. It might be just outside top 20. You want to talk about Saints roster? Currently, he's head and shoulders better than any quarterback that has been on this roster since Drew Brees left. It's not close. It's not close. Big Sean says, not saying Dart is at his level, but Dart gives him Josh Allen vibes. I could see that, Big Sean. I don't, let's see, what's the right way to put it? I don't see his talent level being that. However, I understand why some people do. Okay. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, although I don't think that Jaxson Dart is going to be a professional quarterback, at least a professional starter, I completely get why people do think that. I think his ceiling is high, but I think his floor is pretty low too. Gabe says Dart has none of the intangibles of Josh Allen. Look, I agree with you. I agree with Gabe. However, we're talking about someone that's in college as someone else, as opposed to someone who's been in the league for 6 years. Not as big, not as strong as an arm. I don't know. Maybe. I agree with you. I mean, I agree with it overall. I don't think he's Josh Allen. But then there are other quarterbacks. And look, I was sitting here last year telling you I thought Bo Nix was a bum. Okay? I like to tell you I'll tell you when I'm wrong. I mean, Bo Nix looks like pretty darn good quarterback right now. Will he have a sophomore slump? Maybe. I told you that I thought no way in hell CJ Stroud was going to be as great as everybody thought he was because he went to Ohio State. What's wrong about that? So certainly I could be wrong. Lance Dobart says Carr is a good quarterback. There are 15 to 18 quarterbacks worse than him. I think that's a good number. Charles Manga says if Dart is available in the second round, take him. I wouldn't have as much of a problem with that, I don't think. If Jaxson Dart's available in the second round, as long as they didn't take a skill player in the first round, if they got their offensive lineman and then they went out and Jaxson Dart was still there at 40, isn't it 40 when they pick again, I think? Okay. JC Brar says he thinks Shedeur Sanders is an okay prospect. I've seen every game his last 2 years. He's clutch. His arm is okay. Not much escapability. Okay decision-making. And he had all the world Travis Hunter. Well, that's true, but he didn't have a lot else with him, and he still was pretty darn good. So, again, just because I feel about Shedeur Sanders kind of the way I feel about Jaxson Dart. I don't think he's going to be an NFL starter. However, I don't think I would necessarily be shocked if he does become one. He's got the genes because Deion Sanders was one of the great, and he wasn't a quarterback, but Deion Sanders is one of the top 10 or 15 NFL players I've ever seen. And let me tell you, when I was growing up, I hated Deion Sanders. And I hated it because I hated Florida State growing up. And then he went to the Falcons, so I hated him even more. But there was no denying that Deion Sanders was whatever you want to call it, one of the greatest NFL players in history, at least in my lifetime. You say the apple don't fall far from the tree. I don't know. I'm not picking him, but it's definitely, I'm telling you, people that I respect are starting to talk about it. And look, again, a lot of this is because Saints fans are trying to will this into existence. Someone else said on Twitter that Adam Schefter reported that Sanders could fall out of the top three and that the Saints and Steelers could be landing spots. He says, quote, I totally could see that being the pick. Again, are you trying to get people to click on your podcast and listen to your podcast? Maybe. Field Yates. Shedeur Sanders. Oh, I'm sorry. That's Shamar Stewart. So no. Field Yates says Shamar Stewart in his mock. I don't like that at all. Other people I never heard of talking about Shedeur Sanders. I'm just going through. Oh, and then we had Fletcher from the other day. You know what he thinks. Again, people trying to will this into existence. Will it happen? We'll see. We'll see. Who Dat Daddy says, Who Dat Daddy's agreeing with me. Let's fortify the O-line, draft some players that complement the 3-4 defense. Another, before we move on and bring Gabe in, I'm going to end the show with Saints as I've been doing. We'll come back to Saints in the end. So we'll have time for more comments. But Gabe's going to come on in a minute. We're going to talk about LSU baseball. We're going to make our final 4 picks. And we're going to have our new version of Man versus the Machine as Big Valley. I was trying to come up with some kind of pun on Shedeur's name. Shedorlins. Okay. If he gets picked, make sure you come back. If the Saints pick Shedeur Sanders, that's going to be in consideration. Some kind of pun on his name. Anyway, we got a new Man versus Machine. The way we're doing it, we're changing it again. This time, I think if it doesn't work this time, we're just going to ditch it. But I think it's been fun, so we're probably not going to ditch it. Anyway, we'll end the show with Saints. We'll end the show with Saints. But before we move on, going back to Who Dat Daddy's comment, again, yesterday on Eric Asher's show, if you missed it, you can find Inside New Orleans on the WLAE YouTube page. And you can go find Eric Asher on X. He's got a link to it. But we spent an hour. I was with Garland Gillen and Eric yesterday. And talking about this 3-4 defense, what are they going to do with Brian Brisset? Because he doesn't really fit in. He's not an edge anyway, because you already got Cam Jordan as your third edge anyway. And is he too big to play inside linebacker? I don't know, man. They're going to have to find a way to. When they drafted Brian Brisset, that's one downfall. There are multiple downfalls, but of changing this, when I don't know that you have the personnel to change this right now. That's why I would rather say, look, I'm going to throw my hands up and say, you guys know better than I. You know, y'all know I'm not a Brandon Staley fan. However, I think he's a good coordinator. And if he comes in and he thinks this is the defense to run, so be it. Run it. But what do you do with a guy like Brian Brisset? I mean, I'm not going to even ask what you do with an Isaiah Foskey, because who gives a damn? I'm so done with Isaiah Foskey. Look, people keep saying he could turn it around. Peyton Turner was going to turn around. Finally, he's gone now. We don't have to worry about Peyton Turner anymore. I don't know. Things we'll talk about as we go forward, but the next 2 weeks, we're going to spend a lot on the draft. The heads up as we go forward. Monday will be another Mono Monday. We'll be talking Saints NFL draft. I may pick through a few mocks. Maybe maybe we'll do that on Monday, Gabe. We'll take 4 or 5 mocks and kind of go through their first rounds and kind of pick them apart and see what we think. We'll also probably talk. Well, not probably. We will. We'll preview the national championship game. The men's national championship game will be Monday night. We'll preview that. And then on Wednesday, we're going to talk more draft. But we're also going to talk with Scott Rabelais. Will be our guest next Wednesday. Masters preview. And maybe we'll have on UBN and he can give us his pick. We'll see how that goes. Then next Friday, I'm going to try to get Larry Holder in next Friday. I did not try today because I'd asked him 2 weeks in a row and he couldn't do it. He said, keep asking. So I didn't ask this week. Maybe if I don't, and we'll see what happens. Got to get Larry back on the show. And then it's almost draft time. We're going to be talking more about our live draft show coming up. There's a few guests I definitely want to get in before we get to draft day. I want to get Jeff Duncan on one more time. I would like to get Doug Moots on again. So plenty of things to talk about. And heads up that 2 weeks from this past Wednesday the 16th, there will be no show. I may do it on a Tuesday or a Thursday, depending, but on Wednesday, I need to take off. So anyway, we're going to talk more about this 3-4 thing. Mal says, is that you, Mally Mal? Did you change your name? Aaron Donald didn't fit the base 3-4 front, but Staley made it work. That's true. But Aaron Donald is most certainly one of one, as you said. Lance says he's a D end and a 3-4, Grando outside linebacker. Young can move between defensive end and offensive line and outside linebacker. Chase Young. I think we'll see. Again, I think that he's more suited to play the inside. We talked about how he didn't fare as well against the run, which is kind of surprising because I thought that's kind of what he was going to be when he drafted him. I thought he was going to be more of a run stuffer. Turns out he's a better pass rusher. Maybe he is defensive end. We'll see. And we're going to talk about that more. Okay. Before we move on, because again, we're going to talk about LSU in the Final Four before we come back and finish the show with Saints. We told you earlier we were letting you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family-run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it? After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed. Native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Hemelt, and the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process from among established private equity funds from around the world. They will maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area. None who are perfect on their brackets. Oh, wait, maybe they're not perfect. Whatever. None with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. It ain't the 3-4 defense. It ain't Shedeur Sanders. And it ain't anything that has to do with the NFL draft. What's really important is the rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. Again, we're going to finish up with Saints, but I want to talk a little bit about dominating baseball performances. We haven't talked about it enough. Gabe Henderson, Kade Anderson was phenomenal, and you'll have to excuse me for a second because it's getting hot in here. I'm going to turn on the AC. But talk about Kade Anderson and his dominating performance.
I mean, it's LSU's first complete game shutout on the road in SEC play since 2017. So super impressive. I believe 14 Ks, 5 hits of a top 10 team. I mean, I don't throw this around lightly. That's Paul Skeens-esque.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, you know, we kind of joked that some people that are bitch about 137 pitches, but look, when you're only pitching once a week and you got to do what you got to do this time of year, you got to pile up those SEC wins. And you and I both know that winning games like this on the road are huge.
Well, not only that, and I wanted to bring this up because I know you'll be happy about this. LSU returns to the Friday, Saturday, Sunday schedule next week. So Kade Anderson is getting 8 days of rest.
An extra day. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And not only that, I mean, there were a lot of people who were upset about the pitch count. But, I mean, I trust the coaches and I trust the players to know their bodies and their players' bodies. And all signs, A, being performance, the fact that he sat down like the last 12 batters or something like that.
Yeah.
That and the fact that his velocity stayed the same in the ninth, all signs point toward, you know, him not losing steam. And that's perfectly fine. If you can go out and throw 140 pitches and maintain that level, perfectly fine.
Yeah, real quick, I have a question that I'm sure he probably typed it in before we moved on, but I'll show it anyway. Hemisphere says, is it a fit or not a good vision for the player? Ever since we've seen how Bond going to another team and become a Super Bowl champ and an All-Pro, I pick vision. Look, Bond is a unicorn, okay? When the Saints had to make, you go back, look, I always say go back in time and put yourself and put, you know, and I'll throw the Saints graphic back up while we're talking about this, Gabe. But hindsight's 2020, okay? And look, I'll give administration grief when they deserve grief and credit when they deserve credit. And here, I'm not going to give them grief because if you would go back in time and you basically have to make a decision between Zach Bond and Pete Werner, of course, today, when you look at it today, the right choice is Zach Bond. He became an All-Pro and makes this great play in the Super Bowl and whatever. However, that being said, when you put yourself back in time, I think a vast majority of Saints fans, probably not everybody, but a vast majority of Saints fans would have taken Pete Werner and Willie Gay over Zach Bond 9 times out of 10.
Coaching matters. Can we just say that?
Coaching absolutely matters. No question.
And Philly's got some of the best position coaches in the league. They've had great linebackers forever.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. There's no doubt about that. Anyway, I'm just saying, so look, I get where you're coming from, Hemisphere. Completely get it. And I'm not discounting what you have to say there because, again, we always put ourselves in position. Oh, they should have done this. They should have done that. It's just like when you talk about, Chauncey Johnson, Gardner Johnson, and you go back and see what he did. I mean, it's easy to say what he did or whatever, but he was a malcontent. It's just, anyway, there's lots of players like that, and you can talk about. Yeah, there you go. Want to get back to LSU. I want to talk about that box score for a minute because you look at Oklahoma's lineup, and they had one guy, their third hole hitter, Sam Christensen, went 2 for 3. But the rest of the team, if you take that 2 for 3 out, went 3 for 28 in the game against Kade Anderson. Again, as you're talking about, struck out 14, walked 2, gave up just 5 hits, 135 pitches. 135 pitches, which in the grand scheme of things is a lot, yeah. But like you talk about, now he's going to have 8 days rest. Completely reasonable. It's just a dominating pitching performance. Now you go and look and you hope that the Tigers can do what they weren't able to do in the Texas series, Gabe. And that is follow up Kade Anderson's great performance in LSU winning game 1 against Texas a couple weeks ago. And then they go and lose the next 2. I think you don't need to win both of them, but you got to win 1 of 2.
Absolutely. I mean, taking the series, if you can win 2 of 3 every weekend in SEC play, you are one of the best teams in the country.
Yeah. No doubt.
I mean, teams are going to draw. Tennessee is not the standard. They're more of a unicorn because Tennessee right now just doesn't lose.
Right.
But if you look at most teams are going to drop 2, 3, 4 series in SEC play. It's going to happen. And they're still some of the best teams in the country. I mean, this is the most stacked league in college baseball. And I mean, just look, LSU's 2 road series so far have been against top 10 teams.
Yeah. And look, if you look at their Kade Anderson's counterpart, Kyson Witherspoon had a great game as well. He pitched 6 innings, gave up 2 earned runs. He made 100 pitches. He's 5-2. So he was 5-1 coming. Yeah. He was 5-1 coming into the game. Only gave up 6 hits. The reliever, James Hitt, came in. So he gave up no hits in 3 innings and struck out 4. Didn't allow a base runner. So he was phenomenal. And look, the Tigers got to find a way to hit as well. So I think tonight's game is going to be very interesting. Although I think there's some bad weather around Oklahoma. Hopefully it doesn't affect the game tonight. We'll find out.
There's always bad weather.
Yeah, this time of year.
Oklahoma's just bad.
Right. Charles says,
do you know the classic joke? Do you know what prevents Texas from being engulfed by the Gulf? You know why Texas doesn't fall into the Gulf?
No.
Because Oklahoma sucks.
Poor Oklahoma. They never really get anything really done, do they?
That's because they are nothing.
All right, we are moving on, okay?
My geographical beef.
We're moving on because I do want to finish the show with more Saints talk. So we're going to move on to our revamped Man versus Machine. Maybe I ought to get a lead in from Phil for this. However, that being said, we're revamping and we have cleared the records out. We're changing the way we're doing this segment. We are going to make it so instead of the machine making the pick and Gabe having to decide if he agrees with the machine, screw the machine. We're going to let the man make the decision on what the pick is. And we're going to ask the machine whether it thinks that the man is making the right decision or not. And since I get to make the rules, I have wiped out the previous records and everyone starts 0-0. But Derry, you wouldn't have changed them if they both had great records. And your point is, you won't remember 6 months from now when man is 62-5, buddy. And if you do, I will ignore you in the comments. Today's Man versus Machine segment is brought to you by, I don't know, Evangeline Securities. I was going to make a joke there, but we're just going to go with Evangeline Securities. Anyway.
Brought to you by you if you want to sponsor Man
exactly.
Give yourself
yes, that you could be a sponsor of Man versus Machine. It doesn't have to be for a whole lot because the segment's not worth a whole lot. And I Did I just say that out loud? I think I did. Anyway, today's man versus machine, and I revamped man versus machine. The man is going with an underdog. He's not taking points. He's going money line. Go ahead, explain yourself, Gabe Henderson, and then I'll tell you what the machine thinks. You got the Auburn money line at plus 130 over Florida. Go for it.
This is a pick that I've liked ever since this matchup was announced because everyone and their mother was on Florida. I mean, everyone still feels like they're on Florida.
My mother's hold on. My mother ain't here no more. Ain't there no more. She passed 19 years ago. However, if she were here, I think she might take Auburn. Just saying.
My mother doesn't even know this matchup exists. She hates basketball.
So does my wife. That's pretty funny.
So
hold on.
I like Auburn.
Hold on real quick because this is important. You did hear sponsor, and Regis Radiator Service absolutely can sponsor man versus machine if Radiator Service wants to. Just saying. Go ahead. Finish up because the machine's got something to say.
This is just fading the public. I like Auburn. Everyone's counting them out. You know, they have defied the odds despite what they say. I mean, I read a whole bunch of metrics at the beginning of the tournament saying they weren't going to be here, and damn it, they are. I think Bruce Pearl is a better coach than Todd Golden. I think.
Whoa! You just spewed off 2 weeks ago. You were giving me all the shit about Bruce Pearl being horrible in the.
No. I never said he was horrible. I said he had a horrible tournament resume, and you want to fade him. I was wrong. Right. I mean, trends are wrong. It's
right.
Okay. But Bruce Pearl overall is a better coach than Todd Golden. Todd Golden had not won a tournament game before this season in 3 tries, I believe. And if you look at Florida over the last few games, let's call it for what it is. They're lucky to be here. They should not have gotten by Texas Tech.
Auburn's kind of lucky to be here too, but
not really.
What game was it? Sweet 16 when they almost choked? I don't remember which game it was. They're all running into one another now.
So. I mean, they've been pretty dominant down the stretch. Janai Broom has come out and he said he's going to play.
With the elbow.
Yeah, he said he's going to play.
I gotta be honest. Talking about that, this doesn't have anything to do with the pick, I guess, if he's playing great, because I didn't think he was coming back in that game the last Sunday or whenever it was. When that dude's elbow went the other way, I've seen knees go the other way. I've never seen an elbow go the other way. And it was like brutal to watch. And the dude came back. I'm like, this dude should be playing football. That was amazing, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think Auburn's a little bit talented. I think the experience. I like Walter Clayton Jr. for Florida, but those shots aren't always gonna fall. So that's why I like Auburn here.
All right, well, here's how
and I think they're gonna get their revenge.
Here's how we're gonna do this segment. Okay, so I'm gonna give you my you didn't ask for my input, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway. And then I'm gonna read off what the machine thinks. But first, UBN says, speaking of machine, is your machine leaking? We'll take it to the best place to take a leak. That would be Regis Radiator Service. There's your free plug. Regis Radiator Service is the best place to take a leak. If you live around New Orleans, look it up. Google it. Regis Radiator Service. I'm telling you. Google it. All right. What I think is this. I picked Florida to go to the national championship game from the beginning. Can't change it now. However, Auburn has proved to me I'm pissed off at myself for not putting Auburn in the Final Four. I picked Michigan State there. I let people, and I'm not talking about you, I've let people talk me out of that. And I'm still mad at myself because I thought Auburn was going to the Final Four the whole way. And but that being said, I thought Florida was the second best team in basketball, and I still think that. I think it's going to beat Duke, Florida. Would it shock me if it's not? Would it shock me if it's Houston, Auburn? Absolutely not. The one thing I like about where we are in this tournament now, I don't love a 1-1-1-1. I don't love all ones because I like intrigue. However, when you get all ones, you know you're going to probably get some good games. You're probably not going to get blowouts, and I do like that. However, I would take Florida here and probably will. I probably will take Florida, although I have to say I don't think it matters because I think the winner of the Duke-Houston game is going to win the national championship. That's my opinion. So
you say you don't think the winner of the Duke-Houston game will, or you do?
No, I think they will. I think the winner of the Duke-Houston game beats either one of these teams.
I agree.
In my opinion. Okay.
I agree.
So, but I think it's going to be Duke, Florida. I think Duke's going to win it all. That's what I've thought the whole way. I'm not going to change that now. Again, I'm not going to be surprised if I bet on it, it's going to be for fun, and it's not going to be trying to win any money. All right. Here's what the machine says. We typed it in this morning. AI gave me this long answer. We've cut it down.
Before you give this pick, can I predict what it's going to say?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you said that because I wanted you to predict what the machine would say.
I think the machine is going to go with Florida, citing the previous meeting that they had this season.
Okay, well, you're half right. Okay. The machine says, and I quote, "It's razor close, but I'd lean Florida. Their ability to execute under pressure, deeper rotation, and that earlier win." Oh, wait, it did say that. You're right. So you're fully right. Their deeper rotation and that earlier win tips the scales. Yep. Auburn could absolutely take it if Broome dominates and their shooters heat up. But Florida's consistency feels just a bit more reliable right now. Expect a nail biter either way. Something like 84-81 Gators wouldn't surprise me. So already in our first man versus machine, our new revamped man versus machine, someone's going to be 1-0. Something is going to be 0-1. I'm making. Oh, wait, did I say that out loud? Someone or something is going to be 1-0. Someone or something is going to be 0-1. We'll find out Monday who that is. Your other thoughts on, real quickly, I'll give you futures in case you care. The Duke Blue Devils are an overwhelming favorite. Has Florida ever won a championship?
Yes, they
Seriously?
went back in 06.
Come on, Charles. You don't pay. I don't
06
know.
or 7? Or 07? Wait, I think it was 06 or 7.
I think.
I'll look it up while you finish your thought.
Okay. Anyway. Futures. Duke is an overwhelming favorite. And yes, that is overwhelming favorite to win the whole thing.
Yeah, it is. It is 06 or 7 because 08 was. Sorry, 08 was Kansas in the all one seed.
I try to put that out of. That's right. It was the only other all one seed.
It was the Billy Donovan Florida Gators.
You get even money on Duke to win the tournament. It's like parlaying Duke to win against. I think you're better off if you like Duke to win it all. I think you'd probably get better numbers to do a parlay and leave it open-ended and bet on Duke money line and leave it open-ended and then parlay it with Duke winning the championship game. That's my opinion. I think you'd get a better number doing that. I haven't run the numbers, but that's my opinion. I think you would get a better number than betting even money. Anyway, Florida plus 300. I think the value here is Houston at plus 425 because I think if Houston beats Duke, I think they're going to beat either Auburn or Florida. That's where the value in my mind lies. What do you think, Gabe?
I would agree with that. I would actually, before I double down on Duke or take Florida, I would either double down on Houston or go with Auburn. I think the value there. The margins, as the machine like to point out, the margins between these teams are razor thin. I think any of them could beat any of the others on any given day. So I purely like playing the value here, although I think it will be Duke. I've thought that all along.
Yeah, no, I don't know how you can pick against Duke if you just pick in general. Again, if you're looking for value and you want to put a couple bucks on value, I'm going to go with Houston at plus 425. I don't think there's any value on Florida. I just don't think there's any value at plus 300. I mean, because at plus 300, you're assuming they win. You're assuming they win here. You parlay that with beating Duke. You're definitely better off, I think, running a parlay of picking Florida in an open-ended parlay and then parlaying it with Florida beating Duke, in my opinion.
And you can actually bet on the hypothetical matchup.
That's right. You can.
They've got lines for all of the games.
Okay.
I think the real value lies in the most outstanding player market, though.
Okay.
If you look, a guy like LJ Fryer from Houston to win, Flag is the favorite. He's like minus.
Yeah, what is he there?
Minus? What do you mean? Minus.
He's minus 125. So he's more of a favorite than Duke is to win the whole thing.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Because it's only taking into account these last two rounds, the Final Four and the championship.
Yeah, then you definitely can't bet that.
That'd be silly. But I believe the real value lies with someone like LJ Cryer from Houston.
Yeah,
who's their best player.
Yeah,
who is plus 1100.
Okay.
To win most outstanding player. And just a little note on that award. I mean, basically everyone Cooper Flag on that market is plus money. I believe Walter Clayton is plus 400. So if you think Florida is going to win the title, instead of betting on Florida to win it all at plus 300, go bet Walter Clayton to win most outstanding player at plus 400.
Okay.
Because he will win it if Florida wins.
Are you going to have what are you going to be writing about this weekend?
I've already pre-written stuff. I wrote about most outstanding player this weekend, and then I'll probably be doing some stuff on the championship on Monday. Today, I am on Warriors Nuggets player props.
Where can they find it?
On sportsbookreview.com.
All right.
My author page.
Our first new man versus machine. Gabe Henderson taking Auburn, machine taking Florida. It is mano e machino, baby. And we'll find out what happens. And we'll talk about it on Monday as we preview the national championship game. See you Monday, Gabe.
Sounds good.
Duke, the favorite. No one's surprised by that. Charles Mangus is hoping the New Orleans Pelicans get the first pick of the draft so they can take Cooper Flag. How could they ruin his career? That'd be the question. All right, you got about 8 minutes to get your final comments in, and we're going to go back to Saints here this afternoon. It's this afternoon now. What do we got here? Lance says earlier, he said what ticks him off is Zach Bond showed signs the last 7 games that year. Again, no, I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that whenever you talk about going back in time, you have to put yourself back in time. You can't say now. You can't be a hypocrite, okay? And so many people say, I said such and such, and then you go back and look. If they said such and such, you can't find it anywhere. They never said it here. They never said it on their X page, never said it on any other social media that I could find. Don't say you said something when you didn't, okay? And I'm not saying you did that, Lance. I'm saying in general. Always when you're talking about something that happened, put yourself back in that time. And you put yourself back in the time of when the Saints had to make a decision. It wasn't the right decision. It was the wrong decision. But I'm not going to lie. If you told me, and look, I like Zach Bond. I thought he had potential. I don't think they used him enough. I would have liked to have seen him play more. But if you're telling me there were 3 guys and they hadn't signed Willie Gay yet, but we didn't know they were going to, and they did. Okay. But if you were telling me Saints got to pick 2, Pete Werner, Willie Gay, Zach Bond. You go back in time a year. Again, they hadn't signed Willie Gay yet, so we didn't know this, but I'm just telling you hypothetically. I would have picked, at that time, Werner and Gay. Turns out that Bond was one of the best linebackers in football this year. How'd that happen? I mean, it happens every now and then. And look, I know it doesn't help that you're talking about a Saints team that has made so many mistakes over the course of the past 5 years, 6 years, whatever. It is what it is. Not giving them a pass for the mistakes. You know, we talk about we go back and look and, you know, people talking about giving Derek Carr this huge, gigantic contract. Well, it's not that gigantic when you look at it. Compare it to other quarterbacks. Middle of the pack. And frankly, Derek Carr, by pretty much every statistical measure, is a middle of the pack or better, slightly better than middle of the pack quarterback. He's being compensated for that. He's certainly better than anything that the Saints have right now. Is he better than anything the Saints will have? I don't know. We'll wait for the draft. That's the question. The question of the day. QB or not QB in round 1? I know there's so many of you that hope the Saints go out and draft a quarterback. I get it. I get why you want to. I don't agree with you. But I am changing my 0.0. I'm pulling it back. What is my percentage? I don't know. I'm going to say I'm going to change it to, I don't know. He said, here's the thing. In the first round, 2 things would have to happen, okay? Or there are more than 2 options, but most likely. First of all, Shedeur Sanders would have to fall to 9. I don't see the Saints trading up. I just don't. I think they realize, again, anything's possible. I'm not saying 0.0. The Saints I don't see the Saints trading up. So Cam Ward's off the board. You're talking about if the Saints were to draft a quarterback in round 1, there are only 2 options. Shedeur Sanders or Jaxson Dart. Does Shedeur Sanders fall to 9? That would be the first thing that would have to happen. I think the chances of him falling as far as 9 are about 25%. I feel the chances that the Saints would draft Dart as high as 9 are about 10%. Okay? So, Gabe, work that out for me if you can real quick. Tell me, what are the odds if you're parlaying something that's 25% to happen and 10% to happen, if you can do that? I'm asking you to do something on the fly that I never asked you to do. If you can do it, great. If you can't, you can't. He's going to look it up. So that's my opinion, and that's the odds on, and Gabe's going to figure it out what the parlay would be on that. Really, it's either or, so it's probably not quite as high as that. But 25% on Shedeur Sanders falling to 9, 10% on the Saints reaching at 9 at Dart. But also, though, there's another possibility. I don't see this happening because the Saints never do this. But it's possible, and we've talked about it. Trading down. If they really want Jaxson Dart, they can trade down, probably to like 20-ish. I'm not going to even make up odds on that because I don't think they're going to do it. But so whenever I get what this combination of odds are, I will lessen it a little bit and tell you what I think the odds are on the Saints actually drafting a quarterback in the first round. So those are the 3 things that I think one of those 3 things would have to happen. Shedeur Sanders falls to 9, 25%. Jaxson Dart, the Saints reach at 9, 10%. That might even be high. Or the Saints trade back and draft Dart and get extra pick to go along with it and get him at 20-ish, somewhere around there. What do you think? Gabe's got an answer for me. Plus 3,900, 39 to 1. So I'm going to lessen that a little bit. I'm going to chop that, considering they could trade down, and I'm going to say it's 30 to 1. So 30 to 1. 1 time in 30, which is what? A little over 3%. So I'm going to call it, and I'll lighten it up a little bit more. We'll call it, I'm just going to lighten it. I'm going to say there's a 4% chance. And we actually found a way to get to this number with a formula. I'm going to say there's a 4% chance instead of not 0.0 for you lovers who want a quarterback in the first round. There's your percentage. 4% chance the Saints have Shedeur Sanders fall to them at 9 and take them. Then, not only does he need to fall to 9, they actually need to take him at 9. Because I'm not sure that they would actually take him if he did fall to 9. Can you imagine the uproar of Saints fans, of Hoodats, if Shedeur Sanders is available at 9 and the Saints pass on him? We would have a lot of fun on that show. Gabe says 39 plus 3,900 is carry an implied probability of 2.5. Yeah, but I didn't include in there the potential of the Saints trading down and then potentially getting Dart. So I kind of added that in. Sean says, I have the possibility of the Steelers jumping and trading back to 20. Jumping us and trading back to 20. Also a possibility. I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe. I don't think Dart's going that high. I think people have Dart going way too high. I actually think Dart's going to fall. I think Dart's going to be an early second-round pick. That's my prediction. Charles says 1 in 50. I don't think it's 1 in 50. 1 in 50 means 2%. It's definitely more than 2%. If anything else, the unpredictability of this team. I mean, we don't know. I mean, we can sit here and make predictions based on what Saints have done, but it's kind of like it's kind of like trying to predict what Kellen Moore will do on 4th and 2 from the opponent's 28-yard line down 3 in the fourth quarter, right? and it's 2 minutes left. I mean, we know what common sense says. We know what I would do. I don't have any clue what analytics say to do. We don't know what kind of coach Kellen Moore is going to be. Oh, that's coming up in the offseason. We're going to try to figure it out because we're going to have someone to ask. I'll go out to Saints camp. What kind of coach is going to be? He may not tell you. I don't know. I got a feeling young guns love the analytics crap. So that's good. We're going to get in on that. What kind of coach is Kellen Moore going to be? The point is, when in regards to this draft, I just think is trying to figure that out. Back to what Big Sean said earlier. If Kellen Moore's quarterback that he likes and loves is there when he picks, or they can make a move and get him some kind of way. If it's Shedeur Sanders, if it's Jaxson Dart, whatever, we can't quantify really how much that's a possibility because we don't know Kellen Moore. We haven't watched. It'd be easier if it were Sean Payton because we've seen Sean Payton, his propensity to and what he thinks about quarterbacks and blah, blah, blah. We could use Sean Payton's draft history to say that he didn't really draft a whole lot of quarterbacks. He did last year with Bo Nix. But we can't sit here and tell you what Kellen Moore's propensity. We don't know what conversations he and Mickey Loomis had. We don't know if they think Derek Carr is going to be here through 2026 or not, because they probably know the answer. They're not going to tell us. They probably know. Kellen Moore and Mickey Loomis probably know what their intentions are on whether Derek Carr, because if their intentions are right now to have Derek Carr here through the 2026 season, which is a strong possibility, then they're not going to go out and draft a quarterback early in this draft and probably not draft a quarterback at all, my opinion. Gerard Simino, as we wrap up the comments here, might be the last one. No quarterback in the first round. Wait until next year to draft a quarterback, better group to pick from. I've been saying that. Again, what do you need most? You need an offensive lineman. I still say that's what you should do. Not saying it's what they will do. I know it's not what a lot of you want them to do. I'm still saying it's what they should do. But anyway, as I'm getting phone calls here as we wrap up the show, getting text, everything's blowing up. So we will say goodbye because UBN, you're right. I got post-production to do. I better hurry. The Cubs home opener start in less than an hour. I got a lot to do before that due. I'm going to have to turn it on here in the office. That will wrap it up for us on this Mono E Friday. Maybe we'll start doing this more. Look, I always enjoy when it's just us. I like having more time to talk to y'all. We had some either people that I have never seen before or people that I've seen very rarely. Glad to see Big Sean was back if you're still watching. Hadn't seen him in a while. Glad you're back. And a few others that I haven't necessarily haven't seen or haven't talked to in a long time. Glad you're back. And to all the regulars, thank you for being a part of this Dattitude family as long as you have. I hope you don't go anywhere. I've come to become fond of you all, and I thank you for not staring in my eye the whole show. I'm here. I can see. We're all good. That will wrap it up for us on this Friday. I want to thank today's guest, Gabe Henderson, and, of course, you. UBN sort of. Maybe Regis Radiator will sponsor the Man versus the Machine. We'll see how that goes. We hope you can join us next on Monday. Mono E Monday. We're not going to welcome in anybody. We're going to welcome you in. We're going to do this all over again. I think right now, the best idea that I've come up with, maybe Gabe's got something better. Maybe if you've got an idea, let us know. How do you want to talk about the NFL draft, the Saints in the NFL draft? I like going through some of these mocks. It's about that time. I'm not a mock guy because I think there have been 2,579,624 mocks in the history of mock drafts. And the number of correct mock drafts are exactly 0. Doesn't mean they're not fun. Maybe we'll talk about them on Monday. Especially the slick-haired wonder, that numbnuts, who is just been dumb since like 1982. We'll talk about him. So we hope you can join us on Monday. A reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. You'll always know when we're going on the air live, which you don't know by now is 11 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday when it's not football season. It's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday when it is football season. But you can click that little bell to get notifications when we go in the air. You also get notifications when I post some shorts. It's been a very busy week. I know I've been lax with the shorts after I had a couple good weeks in a row. We're going to get, I'm telling you, we're working on it, trying to get there. Our shorts have been pretty good. Maybe we'll do some man versus machine shorts. We'll see. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And find a replay of the show, as always, on NOLA.com/sports if you just want to listen and not look at my ugly mug. That's always an option. You can find me on bet.nola.com. Again, find the Saints Insiders on NOLA.com/sports/Saints. And a reminder, live draft show, first round of the NFL draft is, I believe, April 24th on both the Dattitude YouTube page and the Saints Insiders YouTube page. Zach Ewing and I, and potentially Gabe, and all of our insiders, and who knows who else, will be live on that Thursday from about 30 minutes before pick number 1 till right after pick number 32. We're going to do it. 3rd year in a row we're doing it. 4th year overall on NOLA.com. We'll be here for the whole thing. And I hope you are a part of it all. Have a wonderful, glorious weekend. Prayers, the people of Arkansas who went through tornadoes yesterday and are supposed to have another really rough day of weather today. Pray for all of our friends in Arkansas, as we will see you on Monday. Until then, take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.